G'day YouTube, it's Ralph here, and in today's video I will teach you on how to lose weight or fat the right way this 2025. So if you're looking to lose fat, feel great, and transform your body that you've been dreaming of, you've come to the right place, as I had plenty of experience of success and failures throughout this journey, and I can share all the things using back tips, common mistakes, and how to stay consistent. Before I start the topic, I would like to ask you guys if you can spare me your time to hit the like button and also subscribe to my channel so that you guys can stay up to date on my future videos. I will share free more knowledge and amazing tips on how to get your dream body. Also, just a brief introduction about myself. Again, my name is Ralph, and I've been a nurse here in Australia for the past decade in high acuity settings such as intensive care, emergency department, and currently practicing in peri-operative care unit. So I do know a bit of basic stuff about nutrition as we tackled this subject on our uni back in the days. Also, since I have been working in the healthcare industry for the past decade, I do have a fair bit of knowledge on why being fit is important, as I've looked after thousands of patients who have chronic conditions that is related to obesity. So with my areas of interest and expertise, I used it to my advantage in order to transform my own body from being skinny fat to being physically fit. So now that I've covered the introduction, first of all, losing fat follows the thermodynamic law, meaning balancing out the calories that goes into our body versus the calories that goes out. With this understanding, we can start creating a smart way to structure our diet, as diet plays a critical role in our fat loss journey. Now we understand how calorie works, the next thing that we need to do is build the right foundation. Let's start with the basics on how to lose fat effectively. So we have to focus on whole food, nutrient-dense foods. I'm talking about lean proteins such as white meat, chicken breast or turkey, fish, red meat like ground beef or steak, healthy fats such as avocados, nuts, olive oil. Even though it's processed, I think it's a healthy source of fat because it's rich in omega-3s and polyphenols. And lastly, the fibrous carbs. We're talking about like fibrous starches like sweet potatoes, grains, oats, and fruits. And lastly, green leafy vegetables. That's part of the fibrous carbs category. So earlier, when I said about low thermodynamics, we have to aim for caloric deficit, meaning we have to eat less calories. Generally, I'd like to aim for conservative 300 calories per day, or if I'm doing an aggressive approach, I'll be doing 500 calories of deficit per day. These numbers that I've stated are sustainable, but I would suggest that you start with 300 calories, especially if you don't have any experience on dieting. But for intermediate and advanced people who want to track their calories, 500 calorie per day on deficit is a good number. So how do we know our deficit in daily calories? This is where we get so technical about on tracking calories. So the easiest way is to get an app like MyFitnessPal or whatever calorie counting app that you can get on App Store. That gives you a rough value on how much calories that you would need if you're in deficit or if you want to be on surplus, meaning if you want to gain weight. But if you want to further understand on how to track your calories, we have to calculate your TDE. TDE stands for total daily expenditure. So TDE, total daily expenditure, it's an estimate on how many calories we burn out through the day. So I'm talking about like our daily living activities. So the way we calculate our TDE is through our basal metabolic rate. So what is BMR? BMR represents the calories that we burn while we were at rest for essential functions. Like I'm talking about breathing and keeping our body temperature regulated. So there's a mathematic equation on how to calculate our BMR. But you can simply get this equation through Google. You can start searching for them and then it will give you some different values. So when you manage to get your BMR through the calculator, you can calculate your TDE according to your activity level. So there's a multiplier on each activity level. Activity level obviously starts from sedentary to lightly active, or people who works out like once or twice a week. And then there's like moderately active, people who exercise for like 3 to 5 times per week. And there's like very active people. Maybe I drop into that category, which people who exercise 6 to 7 times per week. And there are people who are extremely active, and we're referring to like professional athletes who exercise really hard. So now that we have an idea what your TDE is, we just simply subtract 300 to 500 calories on your computed total daily expenditure. As simple as that, we got your caloric deficit. So from here, we have figured out our daily calorie deficit in mind. Now I'm going to talk about on how we can track our calories, since we know the numbers now. Unfortunately, there's no better way but to measure your food. What I mean by that is we're actually gonna weigh your food through the scale. Food scale is a very powerful tool in the fitness industry. You can simply buy this tool in your local department store. Here in Australia, we have Kmart, Target, or even Amazon if we wanted to get it delivered in our homes. So find one where you can buy it first, as this is the easiest and most convenient way that I could think of on losing those belly fat. I don't want to go deep on justifying on how powerful this approach can be, because I can end up rambling for minutes, even hours, getting evidence from scientific data and meta-analysis on why calorie matters in our body composition. And I hate to say this, but if you're not willing to track your calories through this way, you basically don't put any importance on losing weight or fat. And if you want to reframe that thinking, go check out my previous video, as I talked about on how to reframe your mind on how to lose weight. Next, don't forget to hydrate. Generally, 1 liter or 2 per day is enough to meet the health requirements. But if you have a condition that prevents you from hydrating more than 1 liter per day, such as cardiac or chronic condition, go seek professional help first before hydrating yourself for more than 1 liter, as this could lead to dangerous health conditions. Also, when hydrating, it is important for us that we prioritize water over caloric beverages such as fruit juice, soft drinks, and alcoholic beverages. You have to pay attention on how much calories you drink, as this could easily put you on caloric surplus. And going back to our TDE, meaning we're going beyond the number that we have actually computed. Also, the problem with sugary drinks and alcoholic beverages, because it's on liquid form, it doesn't really make you full immediately when you overconsume it. So now we have built your foundation on how we're going to approach your diet. In today's modern era, most people that I know, even my mom, owns a smartphone. So you can download a free macro or calorie counter app, like I said, MyFitnessPal, or other apps that is for free that you can download to help you count your calories per day. So now we have a way to journal our calories. Let's talk about prepping our meals. So when I structure my meals, I simply put emphasis on my protein intake. I make sure that I'm eating enough protein per meal, as in my case, protein is the king of macros, because protein is actually responsible for your recovery after your workouts. Also, eating enough protein is actually gonna benefit you from losing weight, because protein is the most unique macro among the three, such as carbohydrates and fats. As when we consume the protein in our body, protein goes into different processes before it becomes fuel. So eating protein-rich food is necessary to help us meet our deficit easier. So what would be the minimum protein intake per day? So generally, I would aim for 1 gram per pound of body weight. If you prefer to use kilogram, that could be 1 gram of protein per 2.2 kilograms of our body weight. And that is a benchmark according to the World Health Organization. So now that I've mentioned protein, with the rest of the macros, I'd like to keep my fat intake low, as for protein and carbohydrates, they contain 4 calories per gram of macros, while fat has 9 calories per gram of macro. So it could easily add up if you overconsume your fat intake, as that would push us up closer or probably beyond to our TDE. So in my case, because I'm currently sitting at 68 kilograms, I generally aim between 50 to 80 grams of fat. But when I'm trying to gain muscle mass, obviously I'm aiming for a surplus. I would eat around 100 to 120 grams of fat. Basically, you get the idea. The rest of the calories will come into my carbohydrates. So with carbohydrates, since we're in caloric deficit, I'd like to be economical with my approach on eating carbohydrates. What I mean by that is that I wanted to consume carbohydrates that gives me the most nourishment that I can have. You can get the most nourishing carbohydrates from green leafy vegetables or starchy carbohydrates, as those contains lots of micronutrients, also fiber as well. And the great thing about fiber is that there's 2 types of fiber, which is soluble and non-soluble. So when you look into the ingredients when you buy your produce or your food on grocery, when you consume fiber, obviously it'll become calories when you get it into your body. But the beauty about non-soluble fiber is that you don't actually break it down into fuel. You just consume it and then you just get it out of your body without actually consuming calories from it. So that's a neat trick on consuming fiber while you're trying to cut down calories. So now that I have talked about all the macros in mind, drop a comment down below if you want me to share some simple fat loss meals or structured meal plan that I can talk about. Common mistakes to avoid when you're dieting. So number 1 is skipping meals, because what happens when you skip meals? Like let's say when you skip the meal time or you forget to eat your meal prep, we tend to overeat afterwards because obviously we're already restricting calories on our daily needs. And if you missed out one meal throughout the day, you will starve. And when that happens, psychology will kick in. Like sometimes it's really hard to control yourself when you're really starving, especially when you feel like you're being deprived with food. So just be mindful about like trying not to skip meals or forgetting to eat your meal prepped meals. Also, the most common pitfall is relying on fad diets. This is the most common pitfall in the fitness industry, as people claiming they lose weight from this approach A and this approach B, as people are claiming that they lost weight through a different approach. You name it, there's like the infamous ketogenic diet, there's pescatarian diet, and there's intermittent fasting. But some of the people that I've known who tried this diet without a proper system or structure, they regained all those weight that they lost, and some of them actually. And with my previous video, I did share that experience when I was trying ketogenic diet back then. So if you wanted to try a diet, you want to go through a diet that you can sustain long term. Diets, it's a diet that we choose based on our lifestyle. Hence, I want you guys to experiment. Hence, I want you guys to measure on what you eat. I'm not asking you to restrict your food options, but obviously I'm teaching you to make conscious decision on choosing what foods to eat. So another common mistake is ignoring protein intake. I know a lot of misinformed people who would go against the idea of my suggested minimum protein intake, maybe for reasons that excess protein intake causes kidney failure or chronic condition that could lead to bad health. But there's no scientific evidence that proves that high protein intake actually causes chronic kidney failure. There's always a caveat to it. If the person have already chronic kidney condition, obviously they can't have high protein diet because their kidney won't be able to break down those protein into their body, and they're gonna end up having some protein in their urine. But that's another topic. So don't ignore my suggested protein intake unless you have a chronic kidney condition. So how we can stay consistent. So the first thing that you need to teach yourself is how to prep your meals. That's how you're going to learn. It's going to be tough at first as you're actually changing your behavior towards food. But in the long run, you'll get a hang of it and it'll get easier in the future. So the next thing is that track your progress, but don't obsess on subtle changes on the weighing scale while you're in this journey. Your weight loss won't trend down consistently, as there are times that the weight will be stagnant for a few days before it actually moves. As long as the weight isn't trending up consistently or being erratic, you're actually fine. It's just a baseline to see if we are slowly heading to our target weight. Next, be consistent on making small changes on your daily habits. When you're in this journey, we don't have to eliminate all the foods that we normally eat at once. We can slowly eliminate the food week by week, so we won't feel overwhelmed of restricting ourselves. It takes time for us to build a strong foundation, so slowly make the small changes on your food choices. Few more tips. Adding resistance training, such as lifting weights or doing body weight exercises, is actually crucial for keeping your body composition or your metabolism high, as this could speed up fat loss. So in my future videos, I'll tell you why actually developing muscle speeds up your fat loss journey, as muscle is actually the organ of longevity and also organ for glucose disposal. So if you're a person that can't really stop yourself from eating like every hour or every minute, maybe you should try intermittent fasting, but with added calorie or macro counting in mind. These two approaches could potentially be powerful if you're struggling to manage your eating behavior, as you're not just only eating on a specific window time of the day, but you're actually knowing that you're eating less calories because you're counting your macros. So if you're just starting doing intermittent fasting, I would suggest that you start with 10 hours of eating hour window, and then you can slowly drop it down to 8 hour, and then if you're really getting better at it, you can try 6 hours. So learn to experiment with your meals. At the end of the day, you want your food to taste nice, even though if you're actually dieting. There's plenty of recipes out in the web that you can try, or even in social media. Go try them out. Try to enjoy this journey and see what works for you. Alright, remember guys, fat loss is a journey, not a race. So take it one step at a time and be kind to yourself along the way. So if you found this video helpful, please take some time to click the like button and subscribe to my channel. And subscribe for more content like this, and share it with your friends who wants to lose weight or fat this year. So thank you guys for watching, and see you on my next video. Have a good one.